It looks like they're about to have a party when really they're inviting the boys over for a funeral. You're mistaking everything you're giving to your daughters for love when you gave them everything except what they needed. How can that be love?
Welcome to The Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by Family Photographs, establishing parental dominance since 1841. Now, let's dim the lights and say cheese.
Welcome everyone to The Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by Bubbles Depot, a depot for the people. Get what you need at Bubbles Depot. Welcome everyone to The Pestle. I am Wes.
And I am Todd.
And we're filmmakers, and we like to watch films and then go make our own, and then come back and see what we could do better by watching other people's films and discussing it. And yeah, we're staying on the hustle. I don't know. I kind of want to dive right in. What are we covering today, man?
Today we are going back to 1999, covering The Virgin Suicides, which is Sofia Coppola. So if you haven't seen this film, please pause this episode and go watch it, because we're going to spoil all the things.
Yep, we'll dive into some of the story and writing, talk about metaphors, rule of repeats, and other such stuff and things and stuff.
And a quick synopsis of the film. A group of male friends become obsessed with 5 mysterious sisters who are sheltered by their strict religious parents in suburban Detroit in the mid-1970s. It's directed by Sofia Coppola, screenplay by Sofia Coppola, based on the novel by Jeffrey Eugenides. Sure. Cinematography by Edward Lockman. It's featuring Kirsten Dunst as Lux, Josh Hartnett as Tripp, AJ Cook as Mary, Hannah Hall as Cecilia, Jonathan Tucker as Tim, James Woods as Mr. Lisbon, and Kathleen Turner as Mrs. Lisbon.
And so we started to learn about their lives, coming to hold collective memories of times we hadn't experienced. We felt the imprisonment of being a girl, the way it made your mind active and dreamy, and how you ended up knowing what colors went together. We knew that the girls were really women in disguise, that they understood love and even death, and that our job was merely to create the noise that seemed to fascinate them. We knew that they knew everything about us, and that we couldn't fathom them at all.
Dude, so this was your first time diving into The Virgin Suicides. I'm curious about that whole journey. Like, did you know anything other than the obvious, how much you knew about it going in? And yeah, what was this like for you? I mean, it's fairly intense and light at the same time, I think.
Yeah, it's a really good way to put it, actually. So I mean, it's called Virgin Suicides, so I don't know. I assumed that would happen, and I was not wrong. So it's strange. It's like a Coppola film, right? It like makes me, I'm not surprised, but it has this kind of air of dreaminess to it. And I think it's really smart that it's set in the 70s. Okay. I'm trying to like assess my thoughts into like one conversation here. It's really cool that it's set in the 70s, and I think that Kirsten Dunst is excellent in this film. Like it's hard to look at her. She's just so intoxicating in this role. She does that. She has those tired eyes, that kind of like heavy tired eye look, and she just does that so well. But I think that all the girls have their own way of being, and they all the actors do a really good job of like being whoever that character is, even if we don't really spend a lot of time with them. We just kind of like even when Lux and Tripp are like kissing under the bleachers or something at the dance, and one of her sisters goes in there with her date, and they kind of kiss, but then she decides not to, and she leaves. Like that's a choice. That's probably part of the script, but it was still a choice for that character, and I think that was really, it was beautiful. I think that it's really difficult to watch as a parent too. So like you said at the beginning, it's light, but at the same time it's still really heavy, because I think that there's just like bursts of heaviness, like when Lux wakes up and Trip is not there. I was so mad. I was so furious. And I think that, and in a good way, meaning I was furious at the character. I was furious at Trip. And that's because the story was told so well. We see an interview with Trip as an older man. He's talking about how much he wanted her and loved her, like wanted to be with her, and that she was incredible and everything. And then we see them get together, but I know that they're not together later on. So I'm wondering, okay, maybe they grew apart. And then to see what he did was like infuriating, and I know people who that's happened to. So that was, anyway, so that's one heavy thing. Mm-hmm. Obviously the littlest sister at the beginning, it's brutal. I mean, obviously we open with, something terrible, but she doesn't die. And I think that Kathleen Turner, it's so easy for in a moment like that to have a character like a mother, like just lose her freaking mind. You know what I mean? And she does in her own way, but she has to take care of her other girls. So when her husband is like, has the girl outside on the fence and he's holding her, she wants to run to her, but she can't. She's like also trying to keep her daughters away to shelter them. Right. And I think that, but you could feel the warring that she wanted to lose her mind, but she was trying to not. Like, it was just so heartbreaking. And then I am really glad that at the end, when all of the girls, do that we don't see the reaction from them. Like when they found, there have been shows, like, what is it? 13 Reasons Why and stuff. Like, I can't handle that. Yeah. I just can't. I can handle a lot, but that kind of stuff, it's just like, it's really, really hard, especially with kids. And it did make me think, like how hard it is as a parent to protect your kids, but also let them live their lives. Like, you have to be able to. You have to let them make their mistakes and fall on their faces, but you have to be there to pick them up at the same time. But how hard do you let them fall and everything? And obviously she made the wrong choice by just locking them in the house, like that was a terrible choice. I think that anyway, bottom line, excellent film. I love that it's the perspective of the boy. So we get to see the objectification that young boys do of women. Not all of them, really. Like, I never did that. And I'm not saying that because I think I'm better than anybody. I'm just saying I looked at girls and I was like in awe, and I like, had my lustful thoughts and emotions and stuff when I was, an adolescent and everything. But at the same time, like, I never like had a group of friends that I would do that with. It was always like, I have a crush on Pamela and I can't. Sorry, should not say her name. That's not her real name. I had a crush on this girl, and everybody knew it, but I never talked to anybody about it. But I think that I'm maybe an outlier, especially maybe in the 70s, right? And so we have this like massive objectification, and this, I love that it's a woman director, woman screenplay writer, who is so often it's the other way around, where you have a male screenwriter who is trying to get the perspective of a female. Now we have a female director who's giving their perspective of a male, and she's being very kind about it, but she's also putting her emotion and her feeling on the page as well. And I can feel that, like there are a few moments where I'm like, God, you guys, come on. But then there's also really, really beautiful moments, like when they go and pick up the girls for homecoming, where they're so nervous, you know, they just can't keep it together, and that's genuine, that's honest, and I could feel it in the shots. And then they get in a car and they're like, you know, what do I do now, kind of thing, and they're just as nervous, and it just brought me back to high school. It was like so interesting. And
I
cool.
love that car ride to the homecoming too, because the boys are way more tight than the girls are. The girls suddenly start gossiping like about all their neighbors, and they're judging everyone. And you're like, oh, you're nothing like your parents. You're not uptight at all. Like, you're just being restricted. And you can feel them start to bloom the moment they're allowed to have their own space.
Oh, totally. And I was so glad about that, because I didn't want to sit in silence with it, because I felt that awkward. I was like, I've been there. And I just want somebody to break the ice and say something, and I don't want it to be me, because I'm going to say something dumb, so I don't want to be the dumb one. But the girls, they have been locked up so long, like they just want out. So of course they're going to talk, and they're just going to be themselves. And I also think that that's a perspective probably written by Sofia on purpose, because I do feel like, and maybe I'm objectifying, not objectifying, but maybe I'm like saying my opinion about women, but I think that women are a lot more relaxed when it comes to like, you know, going out with a man, or like being maybe on a first date and stuff, because the guy, we're like, I want to impress her because I want her to want me. The girl is like, I know he wants me. I don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? So I just hope he's not a crazy serial killer, you know, like that's their concern. Their concern is like their own well-being, not necessarily whether or not the guy likes them, because obviously the guy likes them, he's out with you, you know. And so that's a totally different mindset, right? That maybe it's just me, that like I would have going out, and then a woman might have, then Sofia might have, you know, and she puts that into the script really, really well. And I think that's beautiful, and it breaks the ice for us, the viewer. And last thing I'll say, and I'll let you talk, because I've been talking way too long. I did not expect to talk this long. Is I love the metaphor of the dying trees, specifically the one in their yard. Like that one, got to take this one out, or the rest of them will die. And I'm not, obviously they got to take the rest of other ones out too, but it's not just theirs. But like this, the metaphor in the movie is like it's this. Got to take this one out, or all of them will die. Here's a question for you. We can start here. What do you think about that metaphor? And is that something that you agree with? Is that a metaphor for something? What is that a metaphor for? I mean, I have my thoughts, but I don't know that they're right.
I don't either. I mean, I see the same thing, trees and a lot of nature. There's a lot of interesting elements of things dying in the movie, because it's not just the trees and the infection, but there's a lot of things dying. Detroit itself seems to be dying, right? It's a dying city in the 70s. And there's a lot of things within Detroit dying, like the auto industry, the steel industry, slowing and withering away. The music scene is dying. Detroit used to be Motown, like just a decade earlier, was freaking hopping. And here we are in the 70s, and suddenly it's, slowly starting to fade. And so it feels like, you can place a lot of death within the realm of this movie, because of the location and because of what the characters are going through. And I think that's an interesting thing that doesn't feel very tidy on screen, and there's so much space to explore it. And so whatever your thoughts are going to be, I think they're going to be both right and wrong, right? They're going to be your own. And because I don't think the movie is trying to really drive it home. I think it's opening up a lot of thoughts and conversations, because when I think about that too, I think about the clip that we played, and I think it's just such a fascinating perspective, because the other element, and this goes also into the lesson that Mr. Lisbon is giving in class when he's talking about the Venn diagrams that he's drawing on the board. And it's like some things overlap, and it's just the shaded area. But some things, are exclusive. And it's like, these are the things that don't overlap. And we can see what those things are also using a Venn diagram. And so I think you can apply that to so many things in this movie. I mean, the mom at the end is quoted. We don't hear her say, I don't remember if we hear her say it or not. Maybe we do. Where she says, none of our daughters lacked for love. There was plenty of love in our house. I never understood. And it's like, you are trying to overlap things that are actually exclusionary. You're mistaking everything you're giving to your daughters for love when you gave them everything except what they needed. How can that be love? And it's a very powerful way. It's all about how you're viewing the exact same thing. And I think that's what's so cool about that Venn diagram lesson is he draws two Venn diagrams, but they both mean different things, right? One is about separation, the other is about union. And I think that's really fascinating. So whenever we talk about the girls and the trees, and there's this other element that I think we're also looking at, which is something you were touching on, which is the boys and the girls. And we're watching the boys try to understand these girls. And that quote that we hear in the soundbite, he says, "We knew the girls were really women in disguise." I mean, that sentence alone is doing so much, because what they're saying is everyone is looking at the wrong thing. They're looking at girls when they should be looking at women, capable of making their own decisions and choosing their own paths, and they never get those opportunities. And so he goes on to say that they understood love and even death, and that our job was merely to create the noise that seemed to fascinate them. We knew that they knew everything about us, and that we couldn't fathom them at all. And I so punch you.
Such a more eloquent way of saying what I said earlier about why we're nervous because we don't know shit.
We don't know what the hell is going on right now.
Yeah.
But they're hip to it. And there's a lot that he says before that this quote, where he leads into it just talking about how they being stuck in their perspective gives them so much more to start thinking about. And I think it's touching on the idea that women mature sooner than boys. And there's something to that. And I think this movie is hinting at that, because the other fascinating element, before I go back to the trees, is when we were talking about this is a heavy movie, but with also strangely light. And I think that's the other element that even, you incidentally touched on, which is women going on a date, thinking about how they don't really need to impress the guy, that they already know that the thing that they're really worried about is this person violent? Is this going to go my way, or do I need to be on my guard? Do I need to figure out how to hold these car keys, right, in a way that's offensive, but not offensive, right? And that's a light in heaviness. And this movie is completely imbuing that experience through our perspective of the girls, because at no point do you get the impression that they're about to kill themselves. They're carrying their depression. They're carrying their inability to go forward with such a lightheartedness that you never see it coming. In fact, it looks like they're about to have a party when really they're inviting the boys over for a funeral. And that's that strange juxtaposition that I think Sofia Coppola is trying to demonstrate, that. And you could certainly say that about guys too in a different way, but this isn't about guys to a large degree. It's about women and what they're carrying around with them. And it's heavy and it's light, or at least the heaviness gets covered up, is disguised with lightness. There's a bunch of women that are feeling deep feelings, but they're disguising it as immature girls, and they're carrying smiles when what they're feeling is anything but. And so
I do wish that it was called something else, because I feel like that gave, I expected all of that.
That That's the fun of it.
Yeah.
I don't, that's a weird way to put it, but that's the fun of labeling this. If, whether you're the author, I'm assuming it was called The Virgin Suicides, but as a director, keeping that name is so pointed because you want people to know exactly what they're walking into, and it's got a beautiful picture of however 16, 17-year-old Kirsten Dunst. And it's dreamy, but you're walking into a bunch of suicides. Like, what is this world? Yeah. And I think putting people a little on edge is a little bit of the taste of the reality that we're witnessing on screen.
That's a great point. Because the point you made earlier about like, yeah, we expect it because of the name, but we don't really expect it. Like, the boys, think they're going to a party. I didn't expect that to have been the thing that they walked into, were invited to. I didn't expect that.
And then you cut away. Oh God, I love this cutaway when they're walking through the front door after she invites them in. We cut away to them all driving, and it's peaceful and happy, and they do this wonderful hard cut back to the house. They just cut. I like writing this into my scripts where it's someone screaming or something peaceful happening, and you hard cut away from it. You interrupt it straight back to the house to reveal that's a fantasy. That's not what's happening right now. I think it's just so brutal in the best way possible.
Yeah, that was, I didn't know what was happening. I thought
they did it.
Did they pick them up and they left? Yeah. Okay, cool. Now we're on the road. All right, awesome. And then come back. It was so jarring. It's like, oh, okay, no. And that made me wonder, not that it matters, but it made me wonder, was that like the boys thinking and imagining, like this is what's going to happen tonight. We're all going to get in a car and we're going to drive away and never come back. That's what they saw with the rest of the evening.
Yeah, I think it's part
or not, or it's just given to us as viewers.
I don't know. I like to think of it because it's coming from the perspective of the boys. I like to think of them thinking back on if we had done something different. If maybe we'd gone over one night earlier, we could have had that. Like, it's regret.
Great point.
And it feels that way. It feels so close. We're just so close to saving these girls from what they're suffering, I think it's just an amazing edit that doesn't necessarily have to be there, but it adds so much. And it makes what we see next hit so much harder because of that brief taste.
And they didn't show, like she just, it was a genius, and then, you're thinking, well, what about Lux, and then obviously the garage door opens and you see her hand sticking out of the car and you're, oh, okay. And then, the other thing I was thinking, and I'll just say this real quick, is like, and this sounds really dumb, but the balls that these girls had to have, honestly, like because you can be upset or you can be sad or you can be depressed, but doing something like that together and knowing that your sisters are going to do it, and then Lux sitting there knowing her sisters already had and she's the only one left. Think about that. Like, if you are, you make a pact with your sisters to do this thing, and they do it before you, and now you're alive and they're not, and now you're supposed to go do it. Like, you have to have really known this is what is happening today. Anyway.
Yeah.
Dumb thing to say, but.
No. But it does make me wonder about the idea of like contagion and infection with these kind of social elements, right? You witness someone do something like a yawn and you yawn, and I feel like they're getting at some element of that with the trees, right? The trees are experiencing this fungus from this bug or what have you, because Cecilia, right, is kind of obsessed with the trees, but she's also obsessed with a lot of animals and how everything is dying, right? She's tracking the endangered species list. She's having that conversation with her mom. She's like, yeah, they just put a new animal on the endangered species list. And even whenever like you said, the handprint on the plaster of the tree. And so she feels connected and a part of that. And we open the film with her, failed attempt of taking her life, right, in the bathtub. And then the next thing we see is really fascinating, and it's just a little one-off. We see the story of Dominic, who falls in love not with them, but with Diana Porter, right? Dominic loved Diana Porter, and he was obsessed with her, and then she went away. And to demonstrate his love, to prove his love, he jumped off his roof. And he gets up, walks away, he's fine. Some people can do that. Maybe it's the boy can do that. What's fascinating about that little moment is the Lisbon girls were watching him do it. We see them see him do it. Cecilia then jumps onto, does almost exactly what he does, except she does it right? And she jumps on the fence and spikes and kills herself. And so it makes me wonder about this connection of Dominic sees her do something, and then he, in an affectionate way, tries to do his own version of it. He gets up, he's fine, and he moves on with his life. Whereas she tried and failed. She did not move on with her life. She was experiencing something different that was much deeper or more profound, or I don't know, just something she couldn't reconcile. And so I do wonder about that linking that they're doing in here, because the girls watch her do it. And then they watch the tree get taken down. And they try, it feels like they're trying, or the parents are trying. Yeah, I don't know. But it does feel like there's a web here where everything caught in it just does not go well. And I don't know if the tree is necessarily even them. If maybe the tree is actually the parents. Mm-hmm. Right? Is that part of your feeling too?
Yeah. I mean, the more you're talking, actually, like the more it's developing in my brain. I feel like the tree is their, I mean, maybe it's just because I hate religion, but it's their religion, right? Get rid of it or it's going to kill everything. Because their whole reason why they lock the rest of the girls up is because they want to protect them, and they're trying to, and they base that all on their religion. Like, they don't base it on the well-being of their daughters. They don't base it on their daughters growing up, turning into women and experiencing the world. Obviously not, because they take them out of school even, right? So they only base it on their, how their faith and everything. And at least for me, I want it to be their faith.
Yeah, same. But there's something interesting that's going on with the parents, just because on the one hand, the priest comes by, right? And he's like offering to talk, and no one really takes him up on it. And then the thing he says to the mother, I didn't list her death as a suicide. I just wanted you to know. And there's this little thread of denial that's happening with everyone, probably everyone except the other girls, because the priest denies what she did. The parents, what do? They remove the fence, as if the fence is the problem. They think they fixed it. The fence is gone. Mm-hmm. And the girl even calls out the dad, because he goes up into Cecilia's room, closes the window, and she's right behind him. She says, "Don't worry, the fence is gone." And he smiles. He's like, "Yeah, I did it." That dude is so socially incompetent.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't have a clue.
Great point.
And the same thing with the mom. She's a different kind of incompetent, but she doesn't know what's going on with her girls. And so, and then even the boys across the street are in denial, right? Whenever they're reading, I think it's Tim, he says, "Oh, she was delusional. Look at all these eyes in her diary. I think she jumped and she thought she'd fly. She was delusional." So like everyone who saw what they did, is in complete denial. I mean, there's that other woman in the beginning after she failed. And she's like, I don't think she was really trying to do it. She was just trying to get out of that house. And I think that's right and wrong. Like, she was really trying to do it. But she's also right that she really was just trying to get out of that house. And that goes back to your point, though, about like, yeah, maybe it is religion. And like, maybe this is the other fungus, is like trying to control people's lives through communal, religious, whatever, garbage.
Yeah, like our kids are not us, you know, they are their own people. And if you don't see that and you treat them like you were treated, or you treat them like you think you would want to be treated, that it's completely, that's not the same thing as giving them what they need. You know, like there is, I think about it all the time. Like my parents are very religious, and I feel like it's to a fault in that they ignore their grandkids that are nearby, that live nearby them, because they go to church so much. Does that, you know what I'm saying? Like, think something like that. Like, you know, but if my sister needs a couple $100, they'll give her some money. That is not the kind of love that is necessary. But to them, it's like, no, we're being an example because we're going to church and everything. It's like, yeah, but what do your grandkids need? What did your daughters need? You know, they needed something else than what you're giving them, you know? And it's not setting an example of being a good wife or being a good husband or being, you know, a good faithful person. It's something else. So what is that? I don't know. I don't know your daughters. I don't pretend to know that, but they should have known that, or at least tried, not pull out the fence. You're totally right. When you said that, I was like, yeah, I remember that moment where it was almost like he was like proud of himself for taking care of the problem. It's like, that is not the problem.
But there is one other element. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to address also the priest coming over. I love, it's like one scene, you know, and he's not there anymore. And he goes up and he talks to the mother and Mrs. Lisbon, and he tells her that what you just said, he didn't mark it as a suicide or write it as a suicide. And she just nods, you know. I don't think she said anything. Mm-mm. Maybe I can't remember, but she just nods. And I remember thinking, you know, how dare she just nod? You know, like, one, that's not what happened. And how dare, you know, like, it shouldn't lie about my daughter. Two, how dare you come into my room and talk to me about my daughter? Like, I don't care who you are. Like, you're not allowed to talk to me about it unless I bring it up. Like, it's just not. And I wouldn't want to talk to anybody, especially a priest. And yet she does. She doesn't say words, but she nods and she accepts it. How the hell can you do that after you lose a child? How can you just accept, like, yes, okay, thank you, basically? You know, it was infuriating, you know, but she thought she was doing the right thing. It's just, yeah. Anyway, I keep going. Go ahead.
Yeah. The other thing I will say that points away from religion is in the opening after her attempt and she's in the hospital, she does see a therapist and he gives her the Rorschach test and she's like, what, banana, swan, afro. And then he comes back to her and he's like, I think she needs to expand her social circle outside of school, right? She needs to have more interactions with males her age. And that's another complete misreading. But it was apart from religion. And the parents did try that. They did try, like, okay, we'll have a party. And what they did was to invite boys over. And now it's still within their purview. It's still not giving them their own freedom. And so for her, she could not care less. Like, she was surrounded, and that was the moment she chose to kill herself. And it was just almost an exclamation point of, y'all don't get it. Y'all don't get me. And I think that kind of goes back to her first words to the doctor, who's making some comment about, like, how much trouble or how much pain could you be in or something. He was completely kind of overlooking her pain. She says, obviously you've never been a 13-year-old girl. And she's trying to tell him.
It was Mike fucking drop, man. He said something about like, you don't know how bad life can get or how tough life can get or something like that. You obviously haven't been a 13-year-old girl. Unreal. And I love that you brought up that the psychologist said she needs to be like around boys her age. Why? Why does she need to be around boys her age? She's 13 years old. There's no reason why she needs to be around boys her age. If she wants to, sure, but that shouldn't be something that a doctor suggests to a 13-year-old boy or girl, like around others her age. Doesn't have to be boys. Why? But that's the 70s for you, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Like, just hilarious. I love that you brought that up. That's why I wanted to say that. Yeah. Like, that was a good moment.
So on point of everyone completely missing and ultimately not talking to them and asking, what do you want? Like, at no point does anyone ever ask them what they want. And therefore ergo, like,
and they act like they know. That's the other thing, it's not just the doctors, but not just the parents, but the doctors too. Oh, we know she needs to be around boys her age. We know that her feelings can't be as real as mine because I'm 40 and she's 13. Like we know. And the mom's like, oh yeah, I know. We'll have a party. I know. No, you don't. Nobody has talked to her. Yeah. Nobody has any idea. And it's hard because when you grow up, a lot happens to you, and you form your opinions and you form your thoughts, and you want to educate your kids and you want to give them the knowledge that you have. But at the same time, like I said at the beginning, they are their own people. And so it's one thing to teach them how to change a tire. It's another thing to teach them persistence in order to get the flat tire off when you're not there, right? That's a whole different thing. And they just never even asked them, to your point. Yeah.
I had to change my first flat tire when I got my driver's license. Like, I went to pick it up and we had a flat on our way out.
Oh my God.
It was amazing. Yeah. And the worst. The other elements, God, there's a handful of things. I like that whenever they finally do chop down that first tree, we cut to and see there's 4 more marked to be removed.
Oh my God, I did not notice that. That is brilliant.
Yeah, it's just letting y'all know, here's what you can expect next. There's another element that's pretty cool, which is Cecilia, for a time, haunts everyone. And after her death, like, she's just appearing. Right? The dad sees her in her room with the window still open. Tim dreams of her on his bed, and he wakes up, and she's gone. David, driving by her house, sees her in her dying tree. And the one thing I don't think we see is what the other girls are seeing. Like, we never see what they see. And I think it's interesting more and more to think about the things that film withholds from us. Because most of it is about the speculation around them. Very little of it is from their perspective. And to the extent that it is, it's still from other people's perspective, right? We see them in their room only when the boys are really calling to them, and only periodically. I think we see just a handful of shots that are absent someone else's perspective. And that's the other communal aspect of this movie, right? We see the news isn't really interested in helping, right? It's all about their selfishness for ratings, right? They start interviewing people. Ranny, this girl, giving her story about she tried to kill herself with rat poisoned pie, and instead her grandmother eats it, which is played for laughs. But I thought it was very fascinating that we cut from that to seeing who's watching it. And it's just this woman sitting and watching this completely unmoved. She's not affected one way or another. And I think that's really interesting whenever you start thinking about everyone and the conversation around it. Right, the reporter shows up to capture the girls in their 90s trying to save the tree, and the way she reports on the deaths, it's very just, I don't know, inhuman. Like there's a lack of sensitivity to all of it, and that's really punctuated at the very end when we see the debutante, coming out party, and we see the mold has spread and it's infected the air, which is all incredibly metaphoric. And what does everyone do? The parents turn it into the party into an asphyxiation theme, which is just a complete mockery of the girls' deaths, right? They're all wearing gas masks, and a guy backwards dives into a pool, mocking Cecilia's suicide. No, and he's getting out, right? No, you don't understand me. I'm a teenager. I've got problems. And it's all completely lacking any sense of humanity. And so the community that they were embedded in wasn't connected either. It feels like the only people who actually cared were the boys, who actually made an attempt. They never figured it out. They never understood. But at least for the rest of their lives, they thought about them, and they really tried. And that's fascinating. There's something to that, I think.
I love that you brought up that, like the perspective thing. We never really know why they did it. Like we just don't know. It could be that they were miserable, but every time we see them in their room, they're like talking to each other, they're drawing or whatever. They're like, just chumming up next to. They never look just destroy. Totally upset. I mean, Lux does after the whole situation with Trip. She does when she does the whole sexual spiral, right? She's sleeping around. But other than that, like, we don't really get a perspective from any of the other girls. So when it happens, it's like it's a shock for us too, and we're sitting there asking questions like, wait a minute, like it didn't look that bad. How what happened? But like it's not Sofia's job to answer that for us. Yeah. She's trying to make us realize that like there are almost never answers. Even if you have like a note, it's not like an answer. It's just Anyway, so it really, really well done. And the more we're talking about it, the more amazing I think that it really is, and how deep this film really goes, and how much, God, I just love movies, man.
Absolutely.
I just don't.
You can still remove even the idea that this is a think piece about women and our society, and you can still just look at it as from the standpoint of suicide itself, right? A tree looks healthy on the outside, but what you can't see on the inside is actually killing it. And so there's just gobs and gobs of layers because of that reason that you just said, right? Because she didn't underscore, here's the lesson, here's what you need to know. She really created just so much space to think and ruminate, and I think that's powerful. It takes some boldness too to make this kind of movie in this way.
Totally.
For a first movie.
And what do the parents do at the end? They just fucking leave.
Yeah.
Just leave.
They gotta go.
Like, all right, we're out. We can't do it anymore. We're out. It's like, I mean, I'm not saying I would want to stay and live in that house. I probably would leave too, but it's a great metaphor also. This movie is full of them, man. And if you watch it, 2 or 3 or 4 times, you'll probably see more, or you might look at it in a slightly different way depending on the mood you're in when you watch it. It's just so cool about movies, man. Like, the good ones do that, You feel something else every time you see it. I mean, how many times have you seen this movie?
This was probably like the 5th or 6th time. Like, I didn't see it when it first came out. I think it was like 3 or 4 years later. And then, I waited probably another 10 years to watch it again. I was on a date, and we ended up back in my place, and I was like, let's watch Virgin Suicides.
Let's watch Virgin Suicides.
Yeah, let's get in the mood.
I mean, I guess it's good until the end.
Right.
It's not bad until the end, right? Well, the beginning kind of rough.
Yeah, and so it's one of those that once you've seen it, it sticks around in your head pretty well. There's a few things a couple of things that I took away from a writing standpoint that I thought was nice, which one of which was like voiceover. Like a voiceover montage is kind of a cheat code. It's a great way to push the narrative forward, keep it engaging and tight, get just the good parts, and cover a lot of ground. There's so much happening, and it could be easy to get lost as a viewer about what's happening, when are we, but she just maximizes the voiceover. I think it's necessary. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes people use it and it's like, you didn't actually need it. And the ability to use it can just be a really simple way to keep everyone on pace about what's happening, why. And also in this one, man, we're getting so much hindsight, and Giovanni Ribisi, man, is so good. It's so he's got such a crazy good voice. Like every time he talks, it's got an accent. It's a little mumbly, but you still hear it, and it's got so much tone and mood to it. I think, I'm sure she directed him just fine, but I wouldn't be surprised if he just read it and she was like, yeah, we're good. we don't need a second take. And I think if you use a voiceover right, it can do a lot of heavy lifting in terms of setting the world and pushing you forward deeper into the narrative. The other thing I liked, and this is super simple, but I always like finding these little wrinkles that help, which was the use of what I call the rule of repeats, which I take to mean you don't want to see the same thing happen twice. Either one, if you see the same situation pop up, you need to see two different results, or literally you don't want to see the same beat twice. And in this case, I saw it pop up when Trip goes to the father and asks for permission to take Lux to the dance. And what happens next is the father approaches the mother with the girls all around, and he's like, hey, so Trip, wants to Trip Fontaine asked the Lux to the dance. And everyone gets excited, and the mom squashes that pretty quick. We'll discuss it later. And it's like, oh, okay. We don't see them discuss it. Instead, we cut to father at school in the hallway. He pulls Trip aside, and he pulls him into a classroom. And what does he say? We have no idea, because we watch it from the other side of the door. We just see them talking. Okay, something's happening. And then we cut to football practice. They get down into 3-point stance, and they're right before they blow the whistle to do a sprint. Trip finally reveals the conditions of taking Lux to the dance. I need 3 guys to take the Lisbon sisters to the dance. Oh man. So instead of repeating itself 3 times, they keep us suspended. Like, what's going on? Is he able to take Lux? Or more specifically, does Lux get to go to the dance? That's what we really care about. We could give 2 shits about Trip, but what we really want to know is, does Lux get to go to the dance? We want to see her happy and outside. We know she's excited about it. And so instead of letting us find that out with the mother and the father, or between father and Trip, we only find out when it's absolutely necessary, when it's Trip needs to find 3 other kids, 3 other boys to take the girls. And that's just a simple, don't say the same thing 3 times, say it once and make us curious, pull us in. And now it's like, oh, well, who's going to take them? Very fun, simple writing technique that I just thought it's ahead of her time. Like, she's clearly a strong writer in order to see that. And it's there, and it's not something they found in editing. It's right there, built into now maybe, I guess they could have cut to them talking in the room. I don't know, maybe they got that. I would be surprised though. To me, it felt completely embedded in the script of, we're going to withhold. Here you go. And it's fun, it's satisfying. The last little thing, and I don't think there's a lot here, but I'm always, we're always interested in first frame, last frame. In the first frame, Lux standing in the street eating ice cream. And it's like the end of the ice cream. And she exits the frame. Interesting. The last frame is the boys on the curb in their suits holding up a lighter. And I find that a little interesting. We track away from them to reveal the tree stump, and then we tilt up to see leaves and an attic window. And it's almost like, I don't know. Lux is light, right? I don't know, is that Latin? But it means light. And so the idea that he's holding up a lighter that we pan up to an attic, I don't know, there's some interesting light symbolism around trees and death and light. And maybe there's some other person stuck in their house watching all this go down. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if there's anything there, but I think there's plenty to consider if you like to dwell on such things. Yeah. I don't know.
Crazy. I mean, you're the one that always spots naming conventions. I have, and you're very good at it. So I'm just going to rely on what you've come up with. I think that's smart.
Yeah.
And pretty cool.
Yeah. Pretty fun. Let's see. No, it does not mean luxury. That's a modern thing. Lux in Latin. Yeah. Lux from Latin means light. So, and she, of course, is the brightest of them all. Like, she's the most liveliest and the most self-possessed. Yeah. So, I don't know. That's about all I have. I'm sure if I dug through my notes, there's other random little tidbits here and there.
I bet if we did this one again in a year or 2 years or whatever, we'd probably have something completely different to say.
Completely different.
Honestly. And that's what makes it so great.
Yep.
To be honest.
Yeah. Nice. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. No, Sofia Coppola, you know what you're doing, man. So many films just kind of give it to us, and you there's an art to withholding, like you were just saying, and she does it as good as anybody else, if not better. I think that it's really difficult and beautiful. It's a difficult and beautiful movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nicely said. Yeah, the fascinating thing is she wrote this without any rights to the book. Like, when she wrote the screenplay, she did it without having any rights, and her dad like scolded her. If people aren't aware, her father is Francis Ford Coppola, who made like some of the most iconic films in film history. The Godfather
Apocalypse
1 and 2
Now.
for one. Yeah, Apocalypse Now. Like, it's pretty good banger, The Conversation. And so she grew up around that. She wrote the script, and he was like, "Don't ever do that. What'd you do that for?" And she found out someone actually already owned the option on the book, and she went to the producers and was like, "Hey, see, y'all have the option, but," and they already had their own writer, and she was like, "Here's my version. Let me know. Good luck, and let me know if it doesn't work out with your other guy." And so she walked away, and they didn't like the other script. So they went back to her and were like, "Okay, like, here's $9 million to make your movie." Jesus.
My God.
Which in today's dollars is like $18 million. And so
Yeah.
for a first film, that's insane. But I'm sure
It's incredible.
having Francis Ford Coppola as your dad didn't hurt, at all.
Come on. It doesn't matter if you're good or not. Nepo baby.
Nepo baby.
For real. You are.
For sure.
It's okay.
But she also obviously freaking crushed and knew what the hell she was doing.
Yeah. I say
Both
that.
can be true.
I don't have any problem with
Both
Nepo
can be
babies.
true.
I really don't. If you can bring it, more power to you. I mean, it's hard enough to get noticed in an industry like that. I do not blame you if you have a famous mom or dad using that to get in front of people. Now, if they give you a job because you're Julia Roberts' son, that's different. But if you earn it and you're good at what you do, it's just getting in the room, then I don't think anybody, especially us, at where we're at, should hold anybody a grudge against anybody for being able to just get in the room. If it's handed to you, that's different.
Yeah.
But like getting in the room,
I completely agree. That's so well said. Because there is a lot of toxic views on, and there's so many people who deny that being a Nepo baby helped them. It's like, man, no, first off, no one wants to hear that. And
exactly. Well said. Yeah.
You're so full of shit. Like, own it and be like, yeah, but you know why I'm still here? It's because I'm damn good at what I do. And that's good too. Like, she grew up on those sets. Like, I cannot imagine growing up around Apocalypse Now or whatever. Maybe she wasn't old enough at that point, but growing up on film sets, like, you're going to pick up some things. She's going to see her dad doing his thing. And she's going to understand some of the language. She's going to know what it looks like to prepare. It's the same thing if your dad was a lawyer, or something. Like, you're going to pick up on some of that stuff. That's going to be the dinner conversation. And so more power to her, man. I 100% agree. It doesn't mean you need to deny it or not acknowledge that got you in the door, but you still have to earn your place. And if you did, and she did, she's worth every penny. Yeah. And I'm so glad she's doing her thing because she's still putting out awesome stuff.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Nice. Well said.
What are you going to recommend this week?
This week I am going to recommend this new show on Apple called Cape Fear, which I really have enjoyed. It's got Javier Bardem and Amy Adams, two monsters, and they do a great job. It's like, I remember this Cape Fear, like the movie, I think with like Mark Wahlberg or Donnie.
No,
I don't know.
De Niro. Or there's the De Niro version from Scorsese in the early 90s, like 93, 92. Okay. And then there's Fear with Mark Wahlberg, which is...
Okay, that's what
Fear. Reese Witherspoon, maybe?
Thank you for...
Yeah.
All right. And Spielberg and Scorsese are executive producers on this. So you've got monsters behind everything as well. It's an interesting story because there's a lot of... You don't know who the bad guy is a lot of times and stuff. And my brother-in-law put me onto it. So I was like, okay, fine. Mostly because of Javier Bardem. And that guy crushes, man. He just makes the best, like, evil dude like you could ever imagine. He's always been that way. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So yeah, Cape Fear.
It's so funny. I was this close to recommending another Apple show, Widow's Bay, which if you haven't watched...
I was going to start that last night and I didn't. I'll start it tonight.
I watched it all yesterday. Like,
is it that good?
I'd heard like 3 or 4 people mention it, some in podcast and then another friend. And I was like, okay, I got to see what the deal is. Because the trailer made it look silly. And I was like, I don't know. This feels kind of kooky. But it's not. It's just... It is funny. Like, it's really, really funny. But it's also really, really good horror. Yeah.
Amazing. So, okay, cool. I saw it got like 19 Emmy nominations or something. Insane. I was like, okay, I'll watch it. Damn. Great. Cool.
So, but that's not my reco. I'm going to recommend another female director. Olivia Wilde. Her new film, The Invite, is just so good. I caught that in theaters. And highly recommend if you're needing another excuse to get out and see something fresh. I'd say it's super fresh and well worth a trip. So go check out The Invite. Yeah.
Nice. I will see it. We talked about it a little bit before the pod. So yeah, I will try to see it.
Super worth it. There's another movie coming out. So stay tuned next week. We're going to see one of the oldest stories in history with Christopher Nolan's new interpretation of The Odyssey. So, yeah, we'll be lining up. I might go out there tonight and just get in line. I don't care if it's reserved seats. I might just go get in line.
Yeah, I'm seeing it Thursday night, so
absolutely
very excited. Couldn't wait.
So stay tuned for that. And if you're enjoying the show, don't forget, subscribe, drop us a review. Let us know if there's something you want us to cover. If you want to comment on this episode, you can do that at thepestlepodcast.com/thevirginsuicides.
And our quote of the day is from Sofia Coppola. It's always more intriguing to imagine what's happening as opposed to seeing everything, because then you can use your imagination. I always wanted to be at a distance. Very, very... take this to note, filmmakers. Don't give us everything. Make us work for it. That's what makes books really good. Honestly, it's like, they can't give you everything because you have to make it in your brain. It's a book, but movies are different. Movies give you everything. They give you, music and delivery and camera angles and lighting and all the stuff. You don't have to make anything up. So take some stuff away. You got to make me work for it. And that this movie did a great job of doing that.
Yeah, dude, completely agree. Just the gall to be like, I'm not going to tell you when it's going to happen. you're going to discover it in the worst way possible. And I'm not going to tell you why. Like, that is the question. And it's hard to do that because some movies don't give you the answer, and it's very unsatisfying because they build up the question in a way that it doesn't make sense to not answer it. And the whole point is that we don't have the answer. And we know that because the perspective that we're owning are the boys and their inability to understand women, and particularly these girls. And it makes for a very much more powerful experience. And so I think she's very solid at knowing not just when to do it, but also how to do it, because it's not like we don't see it, you know. She builds it up, we're expecting it, and then we get to have the same experience that the boys do, and we feel what they're feeling, and we have the same questions they're having, and that makes for a much more interesting and engaging conversation after the fact. Yeah,
totally agree. Hence the long episode.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, this is a lot of fun. I love talking to you about movies where like we don't really know, you know, like I had no idea what you thought about this movie before going in. And then like, you know, there's a lot of metaphors and it depends on where you're coming from. Love it. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. We enjoyed talking about it. Make sure to subscribe, review us wherever you get your podcasts, and share us with your friends. It all helps a lot. And if there's a film you'd like to see us talk about or pick apart, please let us know. Maybe one day we will cover it. Until next time, I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch some movies.
Yeah.